was ambitious, but at the same time, I was very shy, you know. I mean, I realised very early, you know, like we wanted to be a rock star, but I realised I didn't look like a rock star. I knew I would have to try harder. I knew there couldn't be just, well, I'll just stand there and everybody will just go crazy. I'm fabulous, I am. You know, no, I knew I would have to really be good at what I did. And I accepted that, you know. I was happy in my own skin. And I just knew I was happy with life, my friends, you know, because in this book, it's not just validating my life. It's validating the friends you gather around you who I still talk to. You know, George, the bus driver, he's retired now. But when I go to Newcastle, we go out for dinner and a pint. And Stevie Chance, the first bass player, yes, we do. The boys and Geordie too. You know, it's important to me. You know, they've been friends all my life, no matter what happened to me. Yeah, good friends are always, I'll tell you, you know, if you're being a dick. Yeah, if you're being a dick, thanks. I never know what I can say anymore, you know. And it's always good. And you listen to them, you go, really? Oh, man, I'm sorry. I didn't, you know. And I'm so proud of them. And my old man, my old dad, you know, he would stand anything like that, you know, trying to be cocky. He'd be on you. I remember he said, sir, you want to, because he caught us on the tape recorder, you know, my dad, I was singing. And he came and he said, oh, fancy yourself as a singer, do you? I said, I do, Dad. I'd like to be a professional singer. He said this, there's only one singer in this world, Johnny Cash, and you're not Johnny Cash. For the early days, you know, we had all the fun with Geordie and all that. Of course it was fun sitting in the back of, you know, the van and driving because you were young. It didn't bother, you know, 5-6 hours at a time and getting to Bristol or somewhere and then having to drive back up to Carlisle to play a caravan site or some horrible place like that, you know. It's been a canny journey. And that's what I wanted to, in the book, I just wanted to say, because a lot of people thought in 1980, well, they've got this new singer called Brian Johnson. Where'd he come from? You know, a lot of people, I was 32. You know, for God's sake, this is an old guy come in them times, you know. I think the thought that, first of all, I didn't have this attitude of like, hey, listen, I'm the singer. Okay.
That wasn't going to work.
And I just remember walking in, and when Malcolm walked over to me and said, here, mate, you drink this up in Newcastle. It was a bottle of brown ale. And I went, oh, mate, I could murder this. Because, you know, it was a 6-hour drive down there. And, you know, I said, that's just, you know, in them days, you just pop it. Oh, brilliant. Right, he says, what do you want to do? And I just looked around the room and I saw Cliff. And you've got to remember, these guys were still getting over Bond's passing. You know, it was still a terrible, terrible miss for them. And, you know, and I think they were doing this just for something to do, to keep going and, you know, to get this horrible thing out of their mind. And I think, you know, when I walked in, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. You know, I had my cap on and I was just smiling and, hey, lads. But when they started Nutbush City Limits, I've got to tell you, I was in a different place. It was the best thing I think I'd ever heard in my life. You know, just how clean and crisp. And these guys didn't look like they were up for it. You know, they were just sitting. You know, Angus was just sitting and it was Mal said, hang on, I think I know how it goes. And off he went and the boys joined in like a well-oiled machine. And I'm just sitting there going, that sang me heart out. Not because I was trying to impress. I couldn't help it. There's a difference. I just couldn't help it.
A church house, gin house, a schoolhouse.
It was the best I'd ever sung it, and I was just all whoa. And when it finished, nothing was said. There was just these looks, you know. And I said, do you know any of our songs? And I said, Rosie, let's do it. And off we went. And, you know, and it was fabulous. But the strange thing was, at the end, I said, well, lads, thanks very much. I said, wait till I tell the boys in the band up in Newcastle that I had to sing. I had to sing with you. I said, but I got to pop. It was with 8 o'clock. I said, I've got to pop off now, lads. I said, I've got a long drive back to Newcastle. And we're going, what do you mean? I went, I've got to get back to town. I've got to open up the factory in the morning. Had a little business up there, you know. They said, well, when you come back? I said, this was the manager, Peter Mensch. I said, well, give us a ring. I said, but I've got a gig tomorrow night, you know. So it was like that. It was lovely, and it wasn't planned like that. It was a lovely, happy accident of everything being just right. And I don't think it could ever happen again. It's quite embarrassing when people say, because to me, I'm part of it.
This is it.
You know,
it's like, I was going to ask.
And it was, once again, that happy accidental thing, you know. But when Peter Mensch said, I'm sorry, lads, I can't go to Sweden because ABBA's going to use the studio for the next few weeks. I went, he said, don't worry, though, we're going to the Bahamas.
Yes. Get in.
Right, okay, then. I said, when we're leaving? He said, 2 days. What? I said, I better tell the boys in the band I'm making an album. I still thought the boys weren't sure. Yeah, I don't know. It was too big a step, you know.
Yeah, it's a huge thing to go to there, to go from where you're from to recording that record.
I was waiting for somebody to walk in at the last minute again. Oh, it's all right. The guy from Australia said he would take it. Anyway, we got on the plane, and of course, we were all sitting in the back. You know, but the band weren't wealthy, you know. People keep thinking it was this, like, billionaire band. It wasn't, you know, they had to look after their pennies, you know, like anybody else. And sat in the back, smoking taps, drinking beer mainly, you know, and just got drunk. And then we landed at the Bahamas. And, of course, there wasn't a walkway then. You had to climb down the steps. So I'm standing in, like, 90-odd degrees in me jeans. And the only pair of shoes I owned, which were me Brooks boots, 2 pairs of underpants in me bag, 2 spare T-shirts, and a denim bomber jacket in me cloth cap on. And that was it. You know, I had a toothbrush, shaving gear. I didn't even have a pair of shorts. Well, who would in Newcastle? Not recommended. It was from there. I've asked Cliff and a couple of lads a few times. I said, what was the exact where we did it? You know, I think you guys went in first, and then Mutt would say, right, Brian, I want you 2 hours, come in and sing, and I want you gone. I don't want any voices being bust. That's the way I work. And he was very, very strict. And then the band come back in. And I asked the lads, I said, how did all of them say, Ryan, it was a blur. I think Angus is the only one that could remember. Angus has got a memory, man. He can remember everything. But for me, it was a blur. And as soon as what time was up, Phil went first, just to save money on the rooms. I should have said cells. These were cinder block cells with a single bed in it and a toilet and a wash basin. That was it. No air conditioning.
Really?
Yeah. I had a spear gun given us by the housekeeper in case the Tahitian drug dealers came down to try to rob her. And I went, what? So I'm sitting with this thing. And then she came 2 days later and gave us a machete just in case for close quarter fighting. And it was pretty dangerous. So they wouldn't let her out at night on her own. You know, and it was only about 200 yards to the studio, but it wasn't well lit. You know, the power goes out every 2 days or something, you know.
Good God.
And little things like that. But boy, it just happened so quick. 6 weeks. The production team stayed behind, you know, and mixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Malcolm and Angus stayed with them because they're very big into that. And I was back in Newcastle, though. I'll never forget. And I was at my mum and dad's, and they didn't have a record player, so I waited a month to get a copy. I mean, you got to remember, I was going, did that really happen? And I came in, and with the post, and I opened, and I said, it's black. I said, it must have been tight for money for the cover. So I phoned up our guitarist and Geordie too. I said, can I come down and play the new record on your on your stereo. And he said, come on, Doc. So I brought it down and put it on, and the first one was Hell's Bells, which has like 30-second intro or something. And I went, and I started singing. After 2 lines, he lifted the needle up and he went, too high for you, that. He said, come on, let's get a pint. He said, you're not like 5 minutes. That's funny. And I was pretty down, and I went, oh, Jesus. I said, how then? And that was my first listening to Back in Black. Deep Rhythm, God bless him. Things started to happen to me. People in Mercedes were going, hi, Brian. Who's he? You know, and it's hard not to get wrapped up in it all, with people following you. They didn't know who you were, really, and then all of a sudden, they're just so fascinatingly interested in you, and they just love to have a drink. And it was all quite strange, and hard to get over. You're just not equipped for it. Nobody warned you that this was going to happen. And thankfully, and then the band started to say, right, we're going on tour. We're going to rehearse for 3 weeks, because you, Brian, have to learn all the old songs as well as the new ones. I was completely and utterly selfish. I'd never had a new car in my life, ever. And here I was, 32, and I never had a new car in my life. They were always 6, 7, 8-year-old bangers. And a friend of mine, Mickey Bennison, he was a car dealer, and the nickname of his company was Third Leg Motors. It was called that because he sold American cars. The American cars were horrible back then, but there was a SUV called a Chevy Blazer, and it was something like, it was, up against the Range Rover, which was like real expensive. This was something like £5,500, and it was brilliant. It was up high, it was automatic, 2-door, and the important thing was it was black with a big, thick white stripe, exact colours, and a white roof, same colours as Newcastle United. Just had to have it. I enjoyed that car so much. Yeah, well, it's worse than that. You get into your motor car and you can't tell who's singing the song. You can't tell the song. It's just this noise.
Right.
It's horrible.
What kind of noise? Like white noise, or what is it?
No, just a music-y noise. But you don't know what key it's in. You can't hear who's singing it. You can't tell if it's Paul McCartney or Mick Jagger. It's a horrible grey area. I think I called it a murderous silence. Yeah. And it certainly is. It's just, I cannot describe it all. But, I did it the way I always do it. I just got the best whiskey I could have and sat in my office and just, tried to forget all about it, and didn't answer the phone. Wouldn't talk to any kind of press, because they were like vultures coming in. I just kept myself to myself. It was the best thing for us, and it came, the ears started to come, Stephen Ambrose, who did them, he put them in, we're trying them, developing them, and I could see there was light at the end of the tunnel, but, it was a long way off. And then the great thing was, Angus phoned up and he just said, hey, them ears working? I said, brilliant. He said, you want to do an album? I went, I'll be there yesterday. It's a tiny, small, little sack. You put it in your ear. You don't have to get fitted. You put it in your ear, and there's a little thing on the end, a little tube, and it's the pump. And you press it, and it inflates, and it becomes an eardrum. And it uses the bones here, and the bones in the chin, and the bones, but also it can be fitted to Bluetooth, and you can hear 360, or globally as they call it, and there's no hissing like, these regular hearing aids are always hissing and sissing, and it's just, I think it's going to help so much. It's already helped Katie Lang. She was going to retire. We sent it out to her, and she started crying on me. Zoom, and she's back out on the road now. We're going to knock it on to Huey Lewis Needs It. A lot of people now, because it's something new, it can be scary. So, but it isn't. It's nothing. It's just absolutely wonderful.
You're like the Red Cross for like rock singers. This is amazing.
Well, hopefully we want to get it out to the public to make it cheap enough.
Yeah.
So it can help people who are really deaf, you know, and war zones and soldiers and guys who worked on aircraft, you know, and tank drivers. Well, you know, I got to tell you, the other day, you know, a couple of months ago, Dave Grohl said, hey, listen, you know, because Taylor, I love Taylor.
Yeah.
Hawkins, you know, and he said, would you come and sing at Wembley with me, do a couple of songs? I said, well, because me and the band had tried these things out in a rehearsal, but we'd never tried them, you know, in a field of battle.
Yeah.
I said, I've got to do it sometime. So I went there, we rehearsed a couple of days with him, which once again, that's just a rehearsal. And there I was on the side of the stage, like 100,000 people, and it's getting streamed to about 300 million. And the guy comes up and he goes, here you go, Brian, there's the mic. And I just said, this is it. You know, I'm 74 years old. And the first song was Back in Black. That's not for trainees. That's, you know, that's full apprenticeship, that one.
Yeah.
And I went with these New Year's, and he said, I cannot tell you. It worked like I was 25 years old.
How did that feel?
Oh, it's absolutely, it's incredible. It's incredible. Well, I thought I did all right, you know. I got up there. And I, you know, I was worried when I went on. I said, nobody's going to know who I am.
Come on, Brian. Come on,
no,
mate.
honest. No, I'm telling you, I got all these young kids in here. So you can imagine how great it felt. I remember coming off when we finished, and I walked up to Pabs, our sound guy, and I went, I miss this. What a great night that was. I would hope that there's something left somehow, somewhere, you know, just to have a great time. You know, Dan McCafferty, my good friend, went yesterday. I love Dan, and it was through Dan, I said, I want to sing like him. And that was at a submarine base in Glasgow when they were supporting Geordie. Nazareth were there. And I stopped and watched them first. And I just went, what a band. And that's when I got the first feeling that Geordie were just getting left behind a little with this pop stuff. Mm. It was that night he took me out to our van and he said, have you got a cassette? And I said, yes. He said, this is our new single, you know. He said, do you want to hear it? And I said, yeah, come on, let's go out there. I said, anyway, because it was a big fight in the dance hall with the Navy boys. And we went out of the van and he put it on. And I listened to it and I went, oh, my. And it was Broken Down Angel. So can I play this in a memory of Dan McCafferty, me good pal, and to all his family?
It's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Thanks. See you on the other side, kidder. Toodle pips.